Item 22.196, the National Grid poll petition for Sherman Ave, which we had the hearing on just moments ago. We have item 22.205, appointment to Human Rights Commissions, City Services recommendation pending. Laura, could you explain that to me?
That was at the time the agenda was posted Tuesday. They positively recommended the appointment later that day.
All right, thank you. All right, so 22 point. So the finishers. So who are we appointing here? I'm looking at the order.
I apologize. That's Alton McCrae to the Human Rights Commission. Sorry,
Okay.
That should have been on the agenda.
Okay, and he and Alton is on the agenda with a positive recommendation from City Services.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we got there. I think we're good with that. We're up to 22.206 in order to appropriate 2.9 million free cash to stabilization, capital stabilization, and fiscal stability stabilization funds. We have 22.207 in order to appropriate funds and authorize the acquisition of a building for a community resilience hub, which the mayor was speaking about moments ago. Item 22.208, in order to appropriate 1 million in free cash for Picture Main Street Design Services. We have 22.209 in order to appropriate free cash to bike path lights over Main Street. Then there is 22.210 in order to appropriate free cash to purchase and install OpenGov. We have item 22.211 in order to appropriate free cash for NFD software conversion. Item 22.212 in order to appropriate free cash for fire ladder truck. In a related order, 22.213 in order to rescind borrowing for ladder truck. Item 22.214 in order to appropriate free cash for ambulance purchase. 22.215 in order to appropriate free cash for NFD Safe Home Program. 22.216 in order to appropriate retained earnings to FY23 enterprise capital projects. 22.217 in order to appropriate transportation infrastructure enhancement funds to hotel bridge improvements. Item 22.218 in order to appropriate free cash to NPS for McKinney-Vento transportation reimbursement. And that is the consent agenda. And at this point, councilors, I will entertain any requests for removal. Councilor Moulton.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to request removal of 207, the Resilience Hub.
207. Okay, 22.207. Okay, any other requests for removal? Okay, hearing none, I will consider a motion to approve the consent agenda minus 22.207.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Foster, and I don't know who seconded it. Councilor Labarge, okay. All right, no discussion on the consent agenda. Laura, roll call, please.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Nash.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Foster.
Yes.
and Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Okay. The consent agenda has been approved, and all of those items which we did a lot of work on back in December they're all moving forward. We did have one removal, which was item 22.207. Let me see, I'm going to find that one again. Bill. Okay, in order to appropriate funds and authorize the acquisition of a building for a community resilience hub. Councillor Moulton, you want to speak
Yes.
to?
Yes, thank you. Thanks. I want to first thank the mayor for addressing the question about possible use of St. Mary's, which has arisen publicly this week. That was very helpful. I've also had inquiries about the source of the money that would be used to purchase the former Baptist church, and I just want to take a minute to remind the public that this $1 million in ARPA money is the last piece of the puzzle, which also includes cannabis mitigation funds, community development block grants, a gift from Smith College, and other donations. The other question that I've heard is how the city determined that the $3.3 million price is fair market value, and I wanted to ask the mayor to explain that, please.
Sure. So we had an independent appraisal done of the building. And that is the appraisal price, or that is what the building was appraised at.
That was an appraisal that was done within the past few months, or?
Oh, no, this was done if Director Mish, who I think I saw is around, can come on within, I would say, like the last 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, perhaps, but very recently.
Okay, so it's a fresh appraisal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And as you noted, for mayor, this building has been vacant for a long time, but it has had extensive renovations, so it is in relatively good shape for the length of time that it's been vacant.
Absolutely. Yes. It's gone through extensive renovations over the time. It's had recently even, a lot of renovations. So previously I talked about some more sort of expensive work that was done. There is an elevator shaft that was put in. The plumbing was upgraded in the basement. There's a new grease trap for that. It's been brought up to like current code very recently, and in preparation for having a commercial kitchen downstairs. All of the main work has been done. There's really just the finishing work that is left. And the appraisal was actually, at time flies, it was actually the appraisal was December 6th was when we got that. So it was just last month. So
Just
about
a month ago.
Yeah, it's almost exactly a month.
Okay, so I'm satisfied that the city has done its due diligence and has selected, as I said in December, I think this is the best possible option that's available now, and I continue to support it.
Thank you.
Councillor Jarrett.
Thank you. And yes, thank you, Mayor, for the answers. You've answered so many of my questions already. I do have a question about what are the estimated build out costs, the finishing work, as you say, and where will those come from?
So I saw Carolyn turned off her camera.
Yeah, she's here.
She's here. She's back. So we don't have final numbers on build out. That is something that we're working on. So we also have we have a lead partner in this, which is Community Action Pioneer Valley. So we're trying to figure out which aspects of the build out will be handled by which entities. So of course now, we have asked this building to do more than the original conception of the Resilience Hub. We're going to put Health and Human Services there. So obviously the city is going to be responsible that portion of it, and any community space that we want to retain control over. But we're still working out how parts of the hub will be sort of structured in terms of who's responsible for what. And Carolyn, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I'm unmuting her.
Okay.
There we go.
Thanks, Counselor. Yeah, so it's a bit early to know what those costs are, even to determine a division of who's responsible. The next phase would be, so we've heard so far back from our a consultant who's doing the assessment of in the code review that, it's pretty somewhere in the 70% complete range already. The next step would really be to do a space plan for all the entities that will be using it. And once we understand how the spaces would be arranged, then we can understand what those costs are going to be. But we are also seeking funding opportunities from the state. There are a couple of potential new sources of funds utilizing the through the one-stop underutilized buildings or underutilized properties program. We are also going to seek out potentially sources from the MVP program. So we're going to look, take a look at all opportunities we have to help us offset the costs once we understand what those costs are after doing an assessment and space planning.
Great. Glad to hear all of that research. And then, so is that similar in terms of the ongoing costs going forward, that there'll be a split in those, like some will be paid by the general fund and some will be paid by community action or other partners in the future?
That is one of the things that we're trying to work out, is how we're going to sort of structure this entity that's going to be the Resilience Hub and who will be responsible for what.
Right.
The city had committed to purchasing, sort of getting a building for it and sort of handing over a building for the operations of it. As I just said before, we've adjusted that concept a little bit because we want that, that was original concept was, really before the Department of Community Care had been kind of fleshed out as an idea. And so, we now see a very clear synergy and think that it should all be in the same building. So it changes a little bit how we're gonna structure what that's gonna look like.
Right.
Okay. And if I could add to that, just sort of thinking about those long-term sort of ongoing maintenance costs and operational costs. I mean, the great thing about this building, which is different from all the other properties that we looked at, is that the exterior shell has been sealed. The roof, it's a brand new roof. There's the bricks have all been repointed. There's insulation. So everything is tight and solid. There's new blown insulation on the interior wall. So all of, by far and away, that those investments that have been done previous to our interest in looking at this building will cut down on the long-term maintenance requirements that perhaps other buildings might have generated, and sort of concerns about how you maintain such a big historic building when those items haven't been addressed. So in the Roundhouse or St. Mary's Church or any of the older brick buildings that we were looking into.
Thank you both.
Counselors, any other questions?
I move to approve.
Okay, motion to approve made by Counselor Moulton and seconded by Counselor Labarge. Any other discussion? Well, I just want to add, it's really weird. Council President, you're always going last. So anyway, as part of the work to preserve St. John Cantius, the discussion about St. Mary's also came up quite a bit. And one of the things that people in the know kept saying, and this is, mostly people in the private sector, was that St. Mary's is a very large structure. It's an older structure, and that it requires structural work that is considerable because of its size and because of its age, and that another issue that came up during the St. John's discussion was the fact that what do you do with the interior of a very large building? And what I really appreciate about this current location for the Resilience Hub, yes, there is a large space, but we're not talking about carving that space up to make it more efficient, that there's insulation, that this is a building that's ready for now, whereas St. Mary's was built, I believe, around 120 or more years ago. That the work on the Resilience Hub to bring it up, this proposed site has all been recent construction, as both Carolyn and the mayor have pointed out, and that it's much more a place that we can move into quickly and get going. The idea of preserving St. Mary's, I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be a very complicated thing, and I don't think an entity like the Resilience Hub is what's going to best reside there. But I look forward to discussions around other ideas for making that happen. But I think that, as I said last time we met, the mayor has landed on the right spot. This is a really great spot, and that I think it's going to work out really well. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Any other discussion? Hearing up, Councilor Labarge.
Councilor Nash, I want to thank the mayor for really explaining about St. Mary's Church, which I did notify the mayor's office this morning by an email of coming forth to talk about St. Mary's Church, why it wasn't looked at. She cleared it all. You absolutely cleared. Yes, it was looked at. And I really respect that, Mayor, of what you did tonight, because we heard two people come forth to speak about St. Mary's Church. And Councilor Nash, you're absolutely correct. I think the cost would have been phenomenal to restore St. Mary's Church versus the Baptist Church. I think it's going to be an excellent, excellent spot. And I think Community Action is a great and a fantastic agency. So I'm proud about the site that both of our previous mayor, David Narkowitz, worked tirelessly with Wayne Fiden in the planning department, and now our new mayor, Gina Louise Shearer. So thank you, Mayor, very, very much.
Thank you, Councilor.
You're welcome.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please, on item 22.207.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Moulton,
Yes.
Councilor Nash,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Foster,
Yes.
Councilor Gore,
Yes.
and Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Okay, that item pulled from the consent agenda has been approved. Order 22.207, in order to appropriate funds and authorize acquisition of a building for a community resilience hub. Cool. All right. Next, we are up to financial orders on second reading. We have item 22.219, in order to appropriate $3 million in free cash to establish Climate Change Mitigation Stabilization Fund. This is in second reading and up for approval tonight. This has been to finance, and finance has made a recommendation, and I believe the vice chair of finance is going to let us know about that, is going to report out. Councilor Labarge.
Thank you, Councilor Nash. Our finance committee was held on this Tuesday, January 2nd. I think it was January 3rd at 5:00 p.m. And we had a great discussion about, in the finance committee meeting, about the Climate Change Mitigation Stabilization Fund. And we had several people who were speaking tonight that also spoke at finance committee. And a lot of good questions were asked, and the mayor presented it very, very well and explained the whole process. And she talked about establishing this new stabilization fund and the process with it. Number one would be the design and planning, which does cost money to do. And then the larger goal she talked about was to decarbonize all the municipal buildings in the city. And then she proceeded on earmarking those goals. And then looking at the state and federal grants that gives the city the access to more funding. It was a very interesting finance committee meeting. And I am very excited as a city councilor of having this finance committee giving a positive recommendation to the full city council on the Climate Change Mitigation Stabilization Fund. So Councilor Nash, maybe you would like to speak, and Stan Moulton on it also.
Well, I'll defer to Councilor Moulton.
I think he's got his,
He's muted.
well, okay, thank you. As Councilor Barge said, the discussion was robust, and I think we heard a lot of support from the community for this fund. And I think it's important to note that, as Councilor Barge mentioned, that not only will it require city money to achieve our goals, but this will also help us be positioned to access state and federal grants as they become available. So it's a forward-looking and a very critical step, I believe, at this point. And as Councilor Barge said, the recommendation was unanimous for a positive recommendation on establishing this fund.
Well, I'll just add, it was a great meeting. It was the mayor did a great job reporting out, and I think this is a great idea, and I think it is a harbinger, did I say it right, of other things to come. And I look forward to what Mayor Shara has coming forward over the next year. It's been quite a first year for the mayor, and I just these financial orders that we've all just gone through are quite an achievement. And yeah, so I'll be voting yes for this.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Mayor?
I just wanted to add also, well, first of all, happy anniversary, you all. So yes, it was on the 3rd, it was exactly 1 year that we've all been in office, and it has been quite an exciting year. So I thank you everyone for your kind words about this, and I also just wanted to thank those who spoke at public comment. I was very touched by their comments. So thank you. I'm glad that I hear as much excitement about the creation of the stabilization fund from you all as I have for it, and I do think that it's an exciting step that we're taking and a necessary one, and we're gonna really get to work on some of these huge things that we need to tackle as a community and as a world. So thank you all for everything that you've said about this.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes, Mayor, again, I want to thank you for who you are, how you have been working tirelessly. That's why I supported you, because I knew you would start off and you would not stop. And thank you again for doing what you're doing and listening to the people here in the city of Northampton. Very critical, and thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Labarge. It's, that means a lot to me. Thank you.
You deserve it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, so do we have a motion yet?
Yes, we made a motion for a positive recommendation to full city council.
Well, this is up for, do we have a motion for
Not
approval?
yet for the full council.
So
Okay.
moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay, motion made by Councilor Jarrett, seconded by Councilor Gore. Any further discussion on approving the Climate Mitigation Stabilization Fund? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
Councillor Gore,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Councillor Labarge.
Yes,
Okay, we now have we have appropriated $3 million in free cash to establish a climate change mitigation stabilization fund. Next up, let's see, ordinances. Here we have item 22.159, an ordinance to amend section 312-36 parking meter locations and regulations. This is in second reading. This has been to the TPC, Legislative Matters. The TPC gave it a neutral recommendation. It got a positive recommendation coming out of Legislative Matters. There's been a lot of discussion around this, and this has to do with changing the way we do our parking fees downtown, and that to create a more dynamic fee process so that we can have higher rates during times when there is high demand, lower rates when there's low demand, and essentially prioritize that the higher rates will be on at parking locations that are more desirable, and so to create turnover and circulation. So, Mayor or Carolyn, do you want to speak to this? I think that there was a question around implementation last we left off, and that you had requested that we take it off and the agenda, and we're back here. And I think that your office is ready to go with implementing this and rolling it out.
Yes. Thank you, councilors. You've waited patiently for this to come back for second reading. There had been concern about passing it a few months from an implementation time, which we had said wouldn't be until after the holidays and after the new year. And actually taking that time allowed us to work through all of the staffing adjustments that needed to be made to accommodate the shift. So shifting parking in certain sections from, or shifting the enforcement instead of from 8 to 6, from 10 to 8. So we worked out all of those staffing situations that we needed to be able to accommodate that. And so we brought it back. We are working on a communication plan for rolling out this ordinance. When we have that, we'll be asking the council to really help us get that information out to all of your constituents and your lists. When we have a date, we'll likely also allow a period of time, maybe a week or so, when a notice or a warning will be issued instead of a ticket during that new 6 to 8 enforced time. Did I say those times right before? Did I get them wrong? So I did. Okay. So 10, okay, 10 to 8. So during that time, when this will be a new time when enforcement will be happening, we will have some sort of adjustment period where we won't issue tickets, but we'll remind folks that this is a time when it's that we are expecting them to pay for parking. So Carolyn can answer any questions to sort of the heart of it. But again, thank you for your patience as we kind of got to closer to this implementation time when we're going to be ready to go and be asking all of you to help us get the word out.
Councillor Jarrett.
So is an amendment needed? I know I think by default is it 10 days or whenever the mayor signs it after we vote on it? So does that mean, are you planning on having it take effect within 10 days, or do we need to do an amendment that says, this takes effect upon the mayor's decision?
So, I understand why there was concern about this sort of a few months in advance, but we pass parking ordinances all the time that don't sort of take immediate effect, or they take effect once there's signage or the public can reasonably know that this is what the situation is. So it's kind of this funny situation, right? Where we're not going to the DPW won't order signs or make investments in things that are needed to implement changes until they know the will of the council and the council is going to support something. So there's always a bit of a lag time between when something gets passed and then when it's actually like a sign is up that says there's no parking here, or whatever is needed is put there to give the public a reasonable understanding of what the change has been made. So we don't usually add a date like that, and particularly something like this where we are going to do a good amount of communication around it. I'm not sure that it's necessary.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I was just imagining, someone could contest the amount they have to pay if the ordinance says it's 25 cents an hour, yet they're paying more than that. But I guess if they do that, then they can get a refund.
Yes, I'm not too concerned about it, but I mean, we are looking to implement this soon. And, this time that we had these last 2 months has given us more opportunity to make sure that all of our ducks in a row to get it implemented, but I'm not sure we need a date certain to be stated.
Great, thanks.
Councillor Moulton.
I'm not looking for a date certain, Mayor, but would you say it would be fair to think that it would be implemented by the end of the winter, by mid-March?
I hope so. Carolyn, do you have any estimates?
I think it's hard to estimate. I think it really sort of like, as you said, the next step would be to do public outreach. And I mean, I would think it would be before the end of winter, but it also depends on when we can get the software loaded, software changes loaded into those systems that have it. So, I think once all of that is straightened out, and which I assume will sort of happen simultaneous to the public notice, then, we'd be ready to go. But I think it's hard to pinpoint a time, but I think it makes sense to do it in this sort of winter to spring time frame before too much more time passes. I mean, this is all based on a recommendation from consultants who said that we should have a more price sensitive parking base, and that this is already going on. It's coming around to 9 months since the report was finished. So we were trying to sort of act as quickly as we could.
Councillor Labarge.
I think one of the most critical parts of this is doing that outreach, Caroline. To me, that's the value right there. is reaching out to everybody in the city of the changes that are going to be made. That's the critical point right there, is the outreach, because otherwise they're going to say, well, nobody's told us about this. I think by doing the outreach, and the mayor is excellent with that. And I think it's critical.
Thank you. And again, we're going to ask all of you to pitch in and help us
We will.
get the word out.
Okay, counselors. Well, I want to speak to the start time, and that this, as with other parking orders, that usually does have a start date, but this does have a start date where we're allowing the mayor to determine what the fees are going to be. So it's going to be up to the mayor as to when these changes are happening. And that, and so I don't think the start date is as worrisome as it might be in other circumstances.
Uh-huh.
So, and the other thing is, one of the things I appreciate most is that we're going to start enforcement into the evening hours, that all of those downtown spaces that people just pull into and they park for the night, those are a lot of high demand spaces downtown. And that, and so what tends to happen is things become stagnant right after 6 o'clock. And that affects businesses that are doing takeout, a lot of pickup, delivery, that if there's some enforcement, there's going to be greater turnover. And also the folks that there's going to be folks who still park there because they want to go to some establishment, but they'll be willing to pay, knowing that they're going to be closer to where they want to be, and that it's a preferred space, and they will end up paying more for that. So I think this is a good thing to create more turnover, especially in the evening hours where there is greater parking pressures. So, Councilor Labarge.
Yes, I have another question that just popped up. The garage itself, Mayor, are the prices going up in the garage also? Like some people have permits for a whole year or whatever. Will those be going up also?
The permits are not part of this ordinance, right, Carolyn?
Okay.
I haven't looked in a while.
Sorry, I couldn't find my unmute. So there are shifts in the, there are slight increases in the garage. Sort of the monthly permit rate would go up. The first hour is still free, 75 cents for, after that. So there's some minor adjustments, but the real crux of the ordinance is about the on-street parking and the parking, and so that there's more turnover in front of businesses along the main street and sort of Pleasant Street, King and Side Street.
Okay, so I'm hearing that in the garage, it's free for the first hour, but people who have a permit, there will be an increase, correct? Carolyn, is that?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, how much of an increase do you know yet?
Oh, it's in the ordinance. I believe it's $10 a month. It was proposed. It's $20
20?
a month.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, counselors? Okay. I believe we have a motion, right, Laura?
Not yet.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Motion made by Counselor Perry, seconded by Counselor Labarge. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
and Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Okay, item 22.159, an ordinance to amend section 3.12-36 parking meter locations and regulations has been approved in second reading. Next up, under ordinances, this is in first reading, item 22.220, an ordinance relative to parking on Holly Street. Since this is in first reading, it's here for introduction and then consideration for referral. So I could actually speak to this.
Okay.
Let me make sure I have the right one. Oh, it's loading really slow. Come on, come on. Why isn't it loading up? Oh, yeah. Okay, I know this. All right. So this is a request for over on Holly Street. It has to do with moving to increase the no parking zone on Holly Street to allow better visibility for drivers pulling out of Butler Place. That due to that as you're pulling out of Butler onto the left, the sidewalk and the tree belt is raised about 4 feet above the roadway. And there's a tree there and there's shrubs, and that makes for very poor visibility. And there's also the usual parking space, which is I believe it's 25 feet from the corner. In this situation, a request was made to extend that no parking zone so that there was better visibility. This went to the TPC, and they recommended it. It is now here at council, and so it's a slight change to improve visibility on Holly Street. And I think that the place to send this is legislative matters, as it's an ordinance. And I think the TPC has done all of the outreach work necessary on this.
Move referral to legislative matters.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Foster, seconded by Counselor Jarrett to send this item to legislative matters. And any discussion? And this is expected to be on the agenda for Monday's meeting, correct?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All right, Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
and Counselor Nash.
Yes. Okay, so 22.220 will be going to legislative matters. Next up, item 22.221, an ordinance relative to stop signs on Middle Street, High Street, and Clement Street. Who would like to speak to this? I'm not real familiar with this. I think maybe it's High Street. Is that?
Clement Street, High Street.
Looks like Counselor Jarrett would. I remember
Counselor Jarrett,
easy, but we'll defer.
take a swing at it. All right.
Sure. Yeah. These signs are all in Ward 5.
I thought so.
They meet the warrants. They've been discussed at TPC. We've heard from many residents about the need for these. So I'm in support, and I would propose that we just refer them to legislative matters.
Second it.
Okay, so Counselor Jarrett made a motion and it's seconded by Counselor Labarge to send this to legislative matters. Any other discussion? Well, I just want to add, and Counselor Jarrett and I were, and Laura were part of this conversation, that Mark Warner was contesting the need for us to consider these items. It was his opinion that Mass General Law empowered the DPW director to make a decision on stop signs, and that that's the ideal type of discussion to have at legislative matters. So I'm looking forward to clarifying that at legislative matters. Okay, any other discussion?
Yes, Counselor Nash.
Yes.
Who presented that?
Mark Warner sent an email to both Counselor Jarrett and myself and to Laura earlier today. And he was questioning why we as a council were weighing in on this particular matter around stop signs.
Okay.
And we'll share this information with Attorney Seawald, and we'll discuss it all at legislative matters, where that's the job of that committee, to figure out, are we doing law the right way?
Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
and Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I think that's everything on the agenda. And is there any new business? Okay, seeing no hands for new business.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second it.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Perry, seconded by Counselor Labarge to adjourn. No discussion on adjournment. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and Counselor Foster.
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett, do you have a cat on your lap?
Briefly, the cat has now moved
How
on.
cute it is.
Well,
There seems to be a tradition of animals showing up at the end of council meetings.